welcome to the new episode of RisknFlow. Today, again, I have an inspirational entrepreneur in the studio. But before I let her talk, remember always like, subscribe, and give your support to our channel also. Amazing. Hey, today's entrepreneur, she's a super woman, interested in climate and sustainable topics. She's CEO and co-founder of Hoop Carpool. Paloma Martín, welcome to the studio.
Hi. Hello, Jane. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm looking so forward to talk to you and to see how we can make this world a better place to live.
I'm very excited to hear your story about this entrepreneurship and the startup world and your experience in Spain. As I also at the moment I have lived and still now again live in Spain, so I'm super excited to hear some insights on those topics.
Yeah, super. So,
But let's start. Tell us a little bit. Who are you and where do you come from?
so cool. I am Paloma. I am a lover of life, let's say. I'm in love with living. I'm in love with people, with planet. I truly believe we have a huge gift by being able to be here in this specific moment of the world history, where I truly believe that the world needs a little bit more better from us. So we can avoid to go to dark places. I've always being super active in life, super energetic, and I love and enjoy doing a lot of things. And as you mentioned before, I work on uh, making world resources more available. Let's say I think that part of the sustainability comes from using better what we already have. So that is what I do in with the goal of actually leaving this world a little bit better than we found it, and making it more sustainable for future generations. So this is what moves me. And yeah, I'm 31 years old, and I'm happy to be here with you today.
Oh, that's such a nice and touching answer, as really like you get to the deep end straight away. That touches my heart because I have a background in yoga and all that, so I'm also like a nature lover and being filled and grateful. And a little bit different answer that compared to maybe others. Where have you born, Paloma? Can you tell us a little bit about your childhood? Where have you born and raised?
Yeah, I was born in Salamanca, a small city near Portugal, but I've moved to Madrid 13 years ago already, so I consider myself from Madrid as well. My childhood, I am so lucky to say, was a super happy childhood. I am a very familiar person. My family has always built on us, my brother and I, very deep family and love value. So yeah, I've had a really complete and normal childhood. We didn't do big weird things, but it was a very happy way of living. It was for my parents have always been so important, the value of sacrifice. So I've always been very concerned with my studies and with taking care of my friends, and yeah, that was kind of it. Then I jumped in a kind of difficult poverty where I felt completely lost and misunderstood, and it was a really tough moment since, as you can see, I'm a very intense person. It was very intense for me, many feelings. I felt deeply in love and all these things. So then my parents and I decided it was a good idea for me to spend 1 year abroad, to learn English and to actually jump out a little bit and get a bigger perspective of the world. So with 16 years old, I lived in United States for 1 year. And then I did that. Yeah, I decided to study marketing. I was looking for something very open that gave me so many different opportunities. My parents come from the health world. They are a doctor and nurse. So I completely jumped in a different world. And then I also spent a year living in China during my career, my degree. And there is when I first connected with, okay, we need to avoid cities getting to this point. Like years before COVID, people were already wearing masks due to pollution in the city. And I was so amazed, like, wow, this is not healthy. This is not life. So then is when I connected for the first time that I wanted to use my life to avoid cities getting to that point. So then I came back and yes, started working, and then afterwards came my entrepreneurship.
Mhm. That's a so interesting story, and as you mentioned, your parents are doctoral background. I don't know, maybe this is stereotype, but the children of the doctors, maybe they are pushed to be doctors also. But
Yeah, yeah, it
as you
happens a
mentioned,
lot.
but as you mentioned, you choose something else. You went to US and even China, and you mentioned the pollution. Which let me just share a little story about my uncle when he went to Philippines, Manila, the capital.
Okay.
Uh, he was sitting on the cafeteria and just drinking coffee and water. And meanwhile, he was drinking the coffee. On top of the water, there was dropping like pollution. You could see like a layer of something gray
Yeah,
on top of the water. So especially in China and all of countries that there's a lot of people, a lot of
yeah.
pollution. It's you can really see.
Crazy. Yeah, yeah, you can actually, because in China, for me, I was 1 full year there. I never saw the sun once. You never see the sky blue and then the sun yellow. It's like you only see light or dark, but it's like completely gray, full year. And even when it started to rain, then your clothes become yellow, and you were seeing all the dirt uh, going down. It was amazing for me. It was super shocking. Yeah.
Those experiences are really make the difference because, for example, I'm from Finland, which is considered to be pure and like a free of pollution country, all the nature and this. But eventually, the world is connected, so that pollution it eventually will somehow it will affect on us and all.
Yeah,
And
that is a
that's
very
really
wonderful.
horrifying.
Yeah, because we normally don't understand that we share the same world. It's just one place for all of us. So for sure, what China does will affect us, and vice versa. So yeah,
Yes, that's how it is. But you said you came back to Spain, to Madrid after the China year.
yeah.
Then was it at that moment when you straight away started to shift on entrepreneurship, or how was the path eventually on that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. My first connection with entrepreneurship was in my last year of the degree, where I have a subject where I needed to build a business model and stuff. And I got totally into that subject. I was like, oh my God, this is my thing. I love doing this. But as you know, I mean, I was so young, and entrepreneurship is so difficult. So I got to take that project to a contest and win a contest and all that, but it stayed there. So then I started working in enterprise, in corporate business. So I worked for Philips for 4 years, and then was when I realized. I was having a big problem. That was, it took me like hour and a half to get to my job. I needed to take 2 metros, one bus in a 20-minute car ride. And I was like, how come I cannot jump in on everybody else's car? I mean, please take me to my job. It's like you are going alone in your car. You have 4 empty seats. I don't get it. So then I started getting really, really connected with this solution. Like, okay, the cities needs this solution. I mean, there is something we all see, and there is no more room for cars in the roads, in parkings, even public transport is starting to be collapsed. Urbanization in the world is increasing. Like, how are we gonna be able to move? I mean, how are we gonna be able to absorb more trips without collapsing the cities? And I started analyzing and studying the car occupancy rate worldwide, which is dramatically low. In Spain is 1.2 people per car, which is like, okay, this is not efficient at all. So then I started until today that I run a company that is finishing with traffic in Spain, Portugal, and Mexico. So what we do is make those empty seats available for other people to jump in. So we do carpooling for cities.
That's super inspiring, and to hear that also those greatest ideas that come from your needs, or you're starting to see that, hey, this is a problem, that why should there be like only one person in the car. And I think it's the most right people do. It's like only one or maybe two persons in the car, and the rest of course stay without
Yes.
any.
Yeah, exactly.
And coming from marketing, how did you then decided, was it a difficult decision or risky decision to really put your all energy on this idea?
Yeah, it was because I needed to quit my job and then jump into the risk and flow. And it is for sure a difficult idea, but I consider myself a little fearless. This has good things and bad things. The good things are that I truly enjoy risk. For me, it's not something that is hard for me to accept. I was willing to accept it because I was so connected with the purpose of what I wanted to do, that the purpose was way bigger than the risk I was assuming. So for me, it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. Then, of course, entrepreneurship is not always easy. That's why I always say that that's the reason why, for you to be successful on entrepreneurship, you need to be truly connected with the purpose of what you are doing, because you're gonna need to come out of so many challenges that if you are only entrepreneurship for money or for doing a huge exit, or then you will quit in so many different occasions. But if you are connected with the mission and the vision and the purpose of the project, that is what takes you in the path. So I think that's what saved me, that I was very connected with the why I am doing this.
That sounds interesting, that you describe yourself like a risk taker and fearless. Is that something that comes maybe from your parents, or is that something maybe it's your characteristics?
I was I think that, yeah, my father is a little bit like that as well. But I think it comes a lot with myself. I am actually a very hyperactive person, and it normally comes with it. With some, yeah, I think it's something I already. I mean, I also built with all these experiences I had abroad, living by myself when I was very young. So then I started actually knowing that nothing is dangerous itself. So even if you take a risk, it will be fine. So I think that my life made me a little bit like that, even though I think I already had part of that in my personality since I was born.
Yeah, you have a lot of energy and you need to direct it somewhere, and it's great to hear that you are not afraid of taking risks. Start a company related to sustainability and all that. Also, at this point, did you get family support on this career change, sort of?
Yeah, my parents were a little bit afraid actually, because for me, I was already in a corporate with a safe contract and a career already on the go and stuff. And it was hard for them to actually understand this situation. But they have always support me, like even when we started the project, COVID came. So it was very, very tough moments. And actually I really got my parents' support even to be able to pay my rent. So for sure they have been key in this path of entrepreneurship. Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear, and I'm interested in knowing, like, you get this idea of your company. Were you alone, or how did you gather those contacts? Maybe you need to get some funds, raise some money. How was all that? You just did you know anything about entrepreneurship?
I knew nothing at all. And we are four co-founders. None of us came from an entrepreneurship background, and none of us came with money from our family, so we could start it. Like we came with nothing. So then we found out a startup accelerator, and there is where they started teaching us all the steps we should follow. So then we started pitching our project to different investors, and we found out our first investor who actually invested the first 100,000 euros. And with that, we started all the project. Then I quit my job, and then we dedicated full time to the project. And since then, we fundraised, of course, much more money. We already have some venture capital in the cap table and stuff. So yeah, we started learning by doing.
I think that's also the best way uh, of learning of and instead of doing. And actually, many of entrepreneurs and who are entrepreneurs say that the traditional way of education. I actually don't know a lot about the system in Spain. Is it really you need to stick on the same line? There's no maybe room creativity. How is it? How are you taught as children to be or not to be creative and find your path?
Yeah, I think in that's a very good question. In Spain, the best thing we do have is that we are very social, culturally social. So this is something very, very important for businesses, for everything in life. So I think the most important thing of yeah, education in Spain is that we truly learn to help out one another. I do think we are creative, but I am a little bit afraid of new technologies, maybe making young children today to not be as creative, because they get the phone and they have all the joy there, so they don't get to be bored where creative borns actually. So, so yeah, then I do think Spain is doing a great job right now in entrepreneurship, but that is it hasn't been hasn't been an strength past decades. So we are a little early on all this. I think we are moving very fast, but I think that entrepreneurship is not a conversation in schools, in universities. Even in my university, I studied marketing and commercial management, and they talked to me a little bit about entrepreneurship in the last year of my career, but it is not in people's mind as a way of living. You will find it out later on, but it's not something we are introducing on the education. So I truly think that schools and education system needs to start talking about this, because entrepreneurship is the way of innovating and of creating work for people, create employment. So yeah, I think we need to move a little bit farther in this. Yeah.
Mm, I really can relate to that. And also, I'm in my 30s, and in our education system, I think I didn't never heard of the word entrepreneurship or something like this. So I hope really that the future generations and people like you will maybe raise these topics and support the creativeness. As you mentioned, there's no room for boredom for children because they are all the time with their mobiles or TV or something. So there's you like your brain never stop processing.
Exactly. Yeah, the dopamine system never stops, and that is very dangerous. I think we need to get very conscious there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I really hope there's some changes in the future.
Yeah.
But talking about your risky nature, would you consider the starting your business from scratch was the most riskiest decision in your life? Or do you feel like maybe you haven't taken the biggest risk yet? How would you feel?
I always think that the biggest risk is yet to come. Is the saying that has this been your best presentation? I think my best presentation will always be the next one. So far, for real, it has been the biggest risk in my life. So no doubt about it. But I truly think that biggest risks will still come for sure. But yeah, so far it has been the biggest one. Yeah.
And after you made that decision to take that risk, was it like rewarding straight away that hey, now I'm gonna put all my energy on this unknown thing I know nothing about? So even though might be scary, but it was, I think I can imagine it would be like a rewarding, hey, now I know what to do.
Yeah, it was totally rewarding since day one. Because for me, the last year I was doing both projects at the same time. I was doing my job in the corporate company, and then I was building the project. And for me to build the project was like a hobby. So then the day I was able to dedicate full time to my hobby, to my project, it was like this is not a job anymore. Like it was rewarding since day one. Even the tough times has been amazing because the amount of learnings you have every day constantly are huge. So for me, I was like, I'm doing the biggest master degree of my life. Even if this company doesn't work out, I already won. Like I know much more than I've ever thought I would know by my age. So it has been rewarding always, even in the tough moments. It comes out positive. I always related like having a child is like from the friends of mine that have kids and stuff is like the hardest thing you can do in life, but then the reward is amazing. So this is something similar. It's very tough, but I
Mm.
think I will not be able to be more satisfied by working for anybody else's.
Can you share some of those challenges you have also faced during the journey? I think it's up and down as always, and you grow from those challenges. What's the biggest you faced so far?
The biggest one, without doubt, will be pandemic, COVID, because we were just launched, and then we stopped everything, and everybody was at home, so our app was completely unuseful. And that was like, wow, this external element can actually make us die. So that was very, very hard. And actually, we moved all the resources to technology. So we decided to be working fully on our product, which was the only thing we can actually do. So that was the biggest challenge, without any doubt, that we faced. Then personally, my following big challenge was to raising the seed round, the 1.5 million with venture capital, because it was very complicated to actually do it. It was the first time I was doing something that hard, and it was 9 months of finishing all that fundraise. And I knew exactly the day my company ran out of money, and I needed to finish that. And I actually closed the round a week before that day. So that was super challenging as well. And yeah, I will highlight those two.
Can you share a little bit about the process? Did I understand correctly? You raised that money last year? Was it 2024?
23.
Sorry, 2023. Can you share a little bit about that process of 9 months? I think it must be nerve-wracking to wait that long or going through that process.
It was amazing, super difficult, because the venture capital world is very specific. You need to understand it very, very well. Now I do, but back then I didn't. So yeah, you start pitching to all the venture capital, you start going to committees, you start receiving no's. Then when you start receiving people interested, you are already very early with conversations with other VCs. So it's like the timeline is very important for you to take all the venture capital at the same rhythm. And actually, the hardest thing for me was that I needed to pretty much go out of the day by day of my company. I was fundraising 100% of the time. So thank God I had three co-founders that could actually manage the company, because for me it was some point that it was my only job. So for me it was hard to actually be like, I love carpooling. I don't love fundraising. I love my business, but as a CEO, it is what you need to do for the company to be alive. So for me, it was hard to be doing something that it was totally new for me. Very complicated world, very competitive world, and to actually get out of the operative of the company. And then afterwards, once everything was closed and we had the money, then I came back to my company, and I started already getting into the dynamics, and studied, because I love to be with clients, I love to be with partners, I love to do my business. So yeah, then I realized how much I needed to actually separate from the daily life of my company, and that was very hard. But yeah, it was one of the hardest thing I've done. So for indeed, one of the things that most taught me. It was so powerful to learn all that, and to learn about business plans and numbers and negotiations and term sheets and all this. So it was very, very, very impressive as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if you do something maybe a little bit scared of and face those challenges, it gives you even more braveness to succeed. That
Mm.
time was there also a lot of competition?
It wasn't actually. It is big competitors in Europe and in worldwide. Let's say we had a competitor that didn't survive pandemic. Let's say, so for now we can actually say we are leading the Spanish market. So we were very lucky there that actually Spain was not already very impulsed by other carpooling competitors. Now they will be able to come, because new regulation is very interesting market for carpooling now. But yeah, back then we were in that in that point, we were very lucky.
Yes, and coming out of those challenges after pandemic, closing on at your home, maybe not having those doubts for the future, what inspires you to continue that journey, push through all these lockdowns and everything that basically stopped your company for running for a while?
Well, as I said before, it was the huge purpose we had with this solution. For us, it was like, okay, pandemic will go in some point, and the traffic worldwide problem will be the same one. It will continue. It will actually get worse because after pandemic, people didn't want to use public transport. People didn't want to use crowded mobility alternatives. So people will actually choose their own car. So this is gonna be a huge problem. So what makes us connected and being able to continue was to actually understand that the problem was gonna stay there and it was gonna be more needed than ever. So we truly believed in what we were doing and what we were solving.
That's really, really inspiring that all together supporting each other and pushing through those times. And of course, nothing lasts forever. Even the pandemic and that won't last forever. And there will be time that people goes back to their cars, of course.
Yeah, of course, totally.
What happened after that? The pandemic, you raised the 1.5 million. What was the next step after that?
The next step was to actually invest it properly, which was also a challenge. I was like, wow, the hardest thing that I've done was to raise the 1.5 million. And then I realized actually the hardest thing is to invest it now. How do we use it? How do we manage? How do we build the team, make it grow? How we actually decide where to put the money and where to not put the money, a strategy. So after that, we actually started on a growth phase. So we started building a solid business, B2B business actually, because we normally, I mean, now we are about to launch a B2C business model, but until now we have always canalized our solution through companies that offer this solution to their employees. So we started closing huge contracts with biggest companies in Spain. We actually opened some business as well in Portugal and Mexico. So we started growing. So it was very satisfying because it was like, okay, yeah, now we are a proper company. Now this is serious business. So yeah, we started growing. Growth will be the word, the key word of the after fundraise.
Can you share us a little bit how the Hoop Carpool works in action? How does it work?
Yeah, it is a mobile app where people join and then they publish their daily routine. Like, okay, Mondays and Tuesdays, I go from point A to point B at this time, and I am a driver or I am a passenger. So then the mobile app, what is the most powerful thing of the app is the algorithm. So then we connect people that have a car with empty spaces with people that need a ride, and then they connect through the app. They pay each other and share car costs through the app, and then they carpool. Let's say so. It's a mobile app that we have built on ourselves, and then we also have a software product that the companies use to actually measure all the impact that carpooling is making for the companies. So we get in charge of analyzing and calculating all the environmental and social impact of carpooling for each of our clients. But yeah, that's how it works.
I think it's wonderful, and as been living in Madrid, if you try to, I live a little bit outside of the center, so if I want to go to the center, I need to maybe travel a lot more time to traveling than if I just could hop in the car and go to the center. with somebody. So as you mentioned, that's the problem, and I think especially in biggest cities.
Yeah. Yeah. Big cities is a huge problem that it only get worse. So we need to do something now. It's urgent. Yeah.
And just a little bit off topic, or not off topic, but um, in the rise of the electric cars and all that, are those cars they use, are they their own cars, or do you provide some cars to the B2B companies, or or how is it?
Yeah. No.
Just
We only connect people to for them to share their own car. So we use people's cars. We don't have cars ourselves.
yeah, right. So no more cars in the world, but maybe we can utilize those cars that already exist.
Exactly. It's like no more cars are needed. Let's use better the ones we already got. Yeah, that's our mission.
I want to touch a little bit about this your willingness of making world better place and sustainability. Was that something that started in the early days in the China, or were you already conscious of this kind of for maybe climate change and sustainability things in your younger age?
Yeah, that's a big question. I've always felt very connected with nature, with animals, with I always felt very connected with taking care of the world itself. Actually, I was growing in an era where sustainability conversations were starting to raise. So I started joining points like, okay, I love nature. This we need to take care of this. I love animals. This is something important. And then, of course, I went to China. I experienced that situation we earlier explained, and then I was like, okay, this is my thing. So China for me was like the last insight I needed to actually understand that my purpose is sustainability. Yeah. So it's a little bit of everything, but China was super relevant for that decision.
I haven't been in China, and I would love to just visit. As the traveling itself, it's always open up your mind to go whenever a little bit out of your basic life, your comfort zone. You really need to experience things also on the other perspective, on the other point of view of other culture and other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
What would you think on reflecting a little bit about those experiences also? What's the biggest learning or lesson learned on maybe in the China or USA that you carry with you these days also?
Yeah, the individual responsibility, like, um, which in a positive way means that we can actually impact way more than we think. Like, so that if every one of us makes decisions in a conscious way, so yeah, for me it was like very important to understand that we can actually make a big impact by just being conscious and joining people that also want and are willing to do impact, and then start doing things. And that for me with my business, like, I know if one person wasn't able to travel and now it is, we have changed that person's life, and that is important. So yeah, for me was the actual consciousness of, okay, I can actually make it. So yeah, I will say the individual responsibility. Yeah.
That sounds great. And also, most of the time, I don't think we really can't relate that every person is the real person, right? That, as you mentioned, you can make an impact to his or her life by offering this service, or even different kind of actions you choose to do with your company and all. So that I think it's important to understand we are individuals who live in the world. There's blur of people. We are real people, and that's important. I think it's essential for the business to any business to understand that.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's very important. We truly need to think about these things. We need to leave some room and some space to have to think about it, to reflection about it. So yeah.
I have a few more questions for you, Paloma, as we go a little bit the inside of this podcast. Looking back, what do you think was the risk worth taking this startup your business? Was it the risk worth taking?
The risk was to actually, now I think it wasn't risky. Because at first I thought the risk would be, okay, I leave everything to entrepreneur, and if it goes wrong, then I left a job. But now I think like, and what if, I mean, this is not important at all. If your company fails, then you will search for another job, and that's it. So what was the risk? So, for me, now I don't see it as a risk at all. I actually see it as an investment, because nowadays I am much more prepared to do way bigger jobs, if we can say it like that. Like now I'm managing a 30 people team. I know about finance. I know about fundraising. I know about B2B sales. I know about marketing. I've done everything. Like it was super, super, super learning. So now I don't see the risk. I do see the sacrifice of maybe um, all the things we have needed to do to come here, as like working without a salary, so not being able to maybe follow the quality of life I used to had before, because during COVID, we were not even earning money, and so it was more of those sacrifices we needed to do to be here, even more than the actual risk. So for me, this is a positive message about risk. Like, it's gonna be fine. Even if it fails, you have won already. So then the world is millions of opportunities. Like, you are not losing anything by trying. So that would be my answer. Yeah.
I love this reflection and answer, and I really can see the investment, as you said, investment, and I'm super excited to hear all these people I get to talk to always give me some different answer, different perspective and point of view. So I really love it. Now you look back, it wasn't even the risk. That wasn't even a risk.
Totally. Yeah. Actually, the risk was staying there in the comfort zone, and that was the risk, because then I wasn't looking for better opportunities. I wasn't looking for new things. So the risky was to not trying.
That leads me the second to last question. Would you give any advice to somebody who is considering maybe start a company, starting entrepreneurship? What would you say to somebody like that?
I will definitely ask them that please do it. The world needs a lot of entrepreneurs. The world needs a lot of innovation. Just do it. Try it. Be concerned that you are gonna need to do some sacrifices, of course, but that those sacrifices will be always rewarded, and that it's never too late to come back to what you were doing, or to look for other opportunity similar than the one you already have. And that actually the employers nowadays value so much people that have tried entrepreneurship, even if you failed. But you know that that person take risk. that person have needed to do so many different things in different ways of the company. They are motivated persons, they are dreamers. So just the qualification that gives to your curriculum to have tried to entrepreneur is giving you points to get better jobs afterwards. So just try it. We need people that try things.
That's really interesting, and there's so many thoughts that come into my mind. I got to ask one more additional thing, because how do you think in Spain, if you are an entrepreneur and you fail, how does it seen by other people? Because I think in the Finnish culture, if you fail, it's seen like you are disaster, everything has gone, and you don't even try because you're afraid to fail. So what about in Spain then?
It is exactly the same, Jane. This is something, thank you for this question, because I think it is a really big work to do in these terms. We need to learn a little bit more about from United States, which for me is not a example of the perfect society, I have to say. But in this way it is. um, in United States, when people fail, they celebrate it. They're like, okay, now just a statistic, you are one step closer of succeeding. Now you have learned what doesn't work. It's perfect. And they in Silicon Valley, they do parties. They run out parties for failure companies. So this is crazy. Here in Spain, it is quite the same as you mentioned. Failure will be a drama. It will be in your environment, in your family. It will be like, okay, you have already tried. Now, come down to the earth and start working as everybody does. Like, so sorry for you. It's a pity. Like, people feel sorry for you for failing instead of saying, wow, I bet that that company and that team have learned so many important things. Try it again, because then now you will do it better. Here, if you fail, it will be like, okay, then don't do it anymore. you know. So yeah, I think that the failure culture needs to change so much, and that institutions need to support people that have failed in order for them to try again. Because those people, I mean, if an entrepreneur that has failed doesn't try it again, we have lost so much, because all the learning that a person that has failed has, please entrepreneur again, because now you will do it. And if you fail again, do it the next time. Like, the age of successful entrepreneurs is 42 years old. So it's normal that you will fail so many times until that. I think that the big successful project is the number fourth. So then fail three times, so you are close to the fourth one. So we need to change the mindset for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, totally. And if you just give up after the first failure, I think we lose so much potential, because as you mentioned,
yeah,
and you have experienced this, that you have learned the B2B, the financing, all these things you have learned, and that's, I think that's huge value. Like, you don't
exactly.
can count that in the money or education or anything. It's like huge value for you and your team, as you mentioned.
Exactly. Exactly. I agree with you totally.
One last question for you, Paloma. How is the future looking for Hoop Carpool? Is there any risky or fiery decisions coming out?
Actually, there are, because to launch our B2C model is very risky and is very capital intensive. Our future looks worldwide. It looks global. I truly think that we are solving a worldwide problem. So my vision and my aspirations are huge, and I will take all the risks that are needed to actually be able to make a difference in many different countries. And just to finish, for me, to take a risk means that you are not afraid of dying. So for me, it's better to play big without being afraid to die than to play safe and just impact little. So I'm not afraid to die in those terms. So I will be taking huge risks because my vision of the company is big, is global. So yeah, many risks. Jane.
I think this is a good finishing point. I'm not afraid to die. Wonderful, Paloma. I'm just gonna say your huge thank you and to share your inspirational story. And this is really really useful for anyone to really make that little shift on their mind that hey, I'm able to do that. If somebody who doesn't know anything can build a company, why not you? Why not them? Why not anyone else? Like
Exactly. I knew nothing. I knew nothing about companies, about finance, about startups. So like if I was able to do it, promise you, anybody is able. The risk is not trying.
Mm. Thank you, Paloma, for being and sharing this moment with me. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a ti, Jane. Thank you so much for this space. Very important space to the world. So thank you.
Thank you, and RisknFlow get back to the next episode. We see you then. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks.